You're now listening to Sleep Time's Over.
Sleep time is over, baby.
Welcome back, gang, to another episode of Fitness, the other F word. Welcome back to beautiful Studio Havana, Ole, and Ola. We were able to borrow Fidel Castro's little puppy, so she's joining us for a brief period here at the studio. I am not a medical doctor. This is certainly not going to be medical advice. If you don't know, now you know. My name is Summer Lee, aka Chuck Liddell. Bum, 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 bum. For those of you who like old school MMA, I don't know if you're a new schooler, but Chuck Liddell was a very famous light heavyweight in the UFC way back in the 2000s or the aughts, I think they call it. And now he's punch drunk and can barely talk. But he was fun to watch back in the day. Anyway, thank you for joining me. And today, so we talked last week about supplements. And I was thinking, well, maybe a natural progression to moving away from supplements is to talk about progress. So something that I hear a lot from people, especially like when I used to teach at the gym, I would teach a class at the rec center at the UH, was that I would have people say, you know, Summer, I'm not seeing any progress. I'm not seeing any, I was experiencing progress and now I don't see anything. I've been the same for weeks or months or maybe even years. And so, or the thing that I've actually seen sometimes is they say, I'm working out and I know I'm not eating more than I normally used to. And I feel like I'm gaining weight or I'm not as strong as I used to be. And so those two questions, am I not progressing? Why am I not getting better when I used to? Or am I actually getting worse? They have to do with this topic that I wanted to talk about today called, it's got this kind of fancy sci-fi-ish name. It's called progressive overload. Kind of sci-fi, right? Feel like, not Susan Sarandon. What is her name? Ripley from Aliens. Sigourney Weaver. I feel like that would be a Aliens at this point 6, because they had like prequels. Alien 6, progressive overload. And Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley comes back as a clone of a clone of a clone. But anyway, so progressive overload. What the heck am I talking about? I'm gonna try and do this in more of like a meathead fashion, in the sense of I might get some of the science wrong. So if all of you exercise physiologists out there can suck it. You make your own podcast if you don't. if you're like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's like, okay, well then you talk about it. But that's all to say. The bottom line here is, if you're experiencing a stalling, like you've stalled in performance or you've stalled in your physique, or you feel like you're getting worse, it's having to do with the fact that your body has gotten used to the training and you're not taking advantage of the concept called progressive overload. And so all that says is, at some point, because your body is this amazing system that has been designed over hundreds of thousands of millions of years to survive, it's going to adapt. It's an adaptation. So any kind of stimulus you hit the body with, it will respond accordingly. And the great, amazing thing about your body is that it'll get better and better and better at it. Meaning, every time you create that stimulus, your body's like, oh, I remember that. This is what I did. But since I did it before, I know how to do it already. And it's just going to get better and better and better. So whether you're talking about muscle building, getting stronger, burning fat, getting better with your aerobic capacity or your cardio, your body is going to get better at it. I mean, it's kind of frustrating if you are like focusing on your fitness, because you have to keep that in mind. But at the same time, when you think about it, that's such an amazing thing that your body does. And I hope you come away from this from this episode, being appreciative of your body and what it can do, because it is an amazing thing. That ability to adapt to the stimulus it's provided is an amazing thing. So what happens? You might hear people say one of the big benefits to getting a personal trainer is because a personal trainer is going to teach you how to move and teach you about exercises and how to do it safely and correctly, or to cater to a particular need. Like, for instance, if you have arthritis or maybe you've got some knee issues and stuff like that. Obviously, all great things. But the other thing that a trainer will do for you is create a comprehensive plan that builds in that progressive overload. Meaning they have this program where they're going to make it slowly but surely and eventually ramp up the intensity somehow. So, but that doesn't mean, like, if you're saying, well, I'm not in the area I'm not a regular gym goer, I just do stuff at home, or it could be just, I just like to go for walks, with my friends or with my family. You can still kind of think about those types of things. You can still think about progressive overload in those areas as well. So, first of all, let's take a step back and say, well, you might be thinking, Summer, I don't care about that. I don't care. I'm not necessarily doing this to get stronger. I'm not necessarily doing this to get, more, lose fat, body fat. I'm not trying to build muscle. I'm just exercising for health, to feel better. First of all, good job. That's always the most important thing. But I would argue, just in my opinion, again, I'm not necessarily an expert in this. I would argue, though, that it would be better to incorporate eventually. It doesn't have to be like every time you work out where you have to push the pedal, push the boundaries of your limitations more and more every time, but to think about having some goals to increase the intensity somehow, in the sense of, like, if you do like to walk for 15 minutes every day or something like that, that you maybe think about like every month, maybe just go another 5 minutes, or like every week you vary it. You're gonna go faster pace for a shorter time for 1 week, and then the next week you go a longer distance, longer time, but not as fast. You can do stuff like that. The bottom line is your body's going to get super used to whatever it is that you're doing. So if you really want to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak, in terms of really getting all of the benefits from any kind of exercise routine, it would be best to incorporate some kind of progressive overload into the way you work out. Because again, you'll get those benefits. You'll always get benefits as you work out. But we don't have that much time. Everybody's busy, so why not try to maximize it? So, how do you do that, right? Progressive overload. Okay, so conceptually, you probably at this point understand what that means. It just means that you're going to somehow push the boundaries of your comfort zone a little bit every time you. Doesn't have to be every time you train. Okay, that's the other thing too. I think a lot of Type A personalities, and I've been guilty of it myself, is like you go and you're like, every time I go in the gym, I'm gonna get a little bit better at something. Either I'm gonna lift more weights or do more reps or whatever. But you don't have to look at it that way. I will say, like, if you've got a very specific goal in mind, so for instance, if you're trying to lose some fat for like a big event, like a wedding or something, then yeah, maybe you have to be a little more detailed and specific about your progressive overload. But if you're just saying, I just want to be healthy, then you can be a lot more generous with how you do this. So how do you do this? How do you have progressive overload? So if you're talking about like a gym setting, first I'll talk about the gym setting. You can either go up in weight, you can increase your work capacity by either increasing the amount of reps you do at the same amount of weight, or you can decrease your rest periods. And then the last one is you can play with the speed. either if you're talking about the eccentric or the concentric portion of the lift. So maybe you slow down one section, then you drop, and then you quickly increase the speed of another, within safety, if you're comfortable doing stuff like that. If you're a beginner, I wouldn't necessarily play around with movement speed yet, unless of course you're under the supervision of a somebody that knows what they're doing. So in the gym, it's kind of simple, right? Basically, like what I tell myself is I like to generally say, for a whole week, from week to week, I should say, I'll stay at like a rep range with a certain amount of weight. And then the next week, I'll increase the reps by 1 or 2. And every time I'll do that till I hit like a target. So for instance, if I started at 8 reps at 225 pounds, next week I'll try 9 reps at 225 and then 10 reps at 225. By like 10 or 11, that's around a time that I'll start increasing the weight, and then I'll go back down to like 8 reps again. So maybe now I'm going to go up to 305. These are just arbitrary numbers. That's a lot of weight for me. So 305, and then do that again, 8, 9, 10 reps. Okay, so that's why it's a little easier in the gym to kind of build in this progressive overload. Having said that, you can do it in other ways too. So like those boot camp style workouts where you're in a group exercise fitness situation and you do stations and it's very high intensity. Those are super fun. It's a very similar style to the one that I do with Blake at Parado Power. So you can, for yourself, incorporate a certain amount of progressive overload. It just takes a little bit more effort on your part to keep track of it, because, well, the nice thing about going to a group fitness class is that somebody else is doing everything for you. You don't have to think about it. You just got to do it, which is great. What I like to tell people who like to do classes like that is take like 3 movements you like and that you do really well, or 3 movements that you don't like or you don't do very well. And every month, because normally you'll end up doing that movement again sometime in the month. But every month, just check in, like, am I doing more reps in the amount of time they give me? Or am I doing more weight in the allotted period, or whatever the scheme may be, because there's different ways to do the training. So if you're at the same weight or the same reps for months and months and months, you might want to think about upping the intensity. Or it could just be like an internal check-in and be like, this feels super easy. And I remember, you can say to yourself, like, I remember when I started this particular movement, whatever it is, was really hard. And it is important, because I had a former coworker. She loved boot camp style workouts. She would do it like 3 to 5 times a week. And at some point, I remember she told me, like, I don't seem to be losing any weight. I don't seem to be progressing much. And it's because even though she was working really hard, her body was just getting used to it. To me, her body was just getting used to it. It was just too easy for her body. She was getting kind of the same, the things that she was using to gauge if she was getting a good workout, like breathing hard, sweating, feeling tired afterwards. That all actually can stay the same, even if your body's getting used to it. So sometimes you need to check in with the actual weight that you're using or the reps. You don't have to do it every time you train, but just every now and then. It'd be good to just check in with that. If you like to do like even if you do like martial arts, so like I like to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't check in with myself for progressive overload for that, just because I do it with my weight training. But if, like, for instance, if BJJ is the only thing you do, that stands for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you can actually build in progressive overload for that as well. So some schools will do a lot of warm-ups and drills. So like they'll do a lot of shrimping or tumbling, my personal favorite. But you can do stuff like that, and so you can actually just like set a timer. Like if before class, every the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of class, you do your drills, see how much times you can shrimp up and down the mats. Or like, though, like every martial art will have drills you do, right? Or like there's something called pummeling where you look like you're dancing with your partner because you're just doing this thing where you go underhook, wrist control, and then you switch underhook, wrist control. So if you just see like how many reps you can do, or how fast you can do it in like a minute. So there's ways you can build in progressive overload for martial arts. And then like if you like to run, if you're a runner, or if you like to bike, if you like to walk, you can still build in progressive overload for that too. Like I mentioned, it can be distance, it can be time, it can be intensity, meaning we're going to sprint this one, we're going to run this one, we're going to just walk this one, or speed walk, whatever the case may be. If you're a walker, another thing you can do is, since CrossFit is so popular now, the weighted vests are now becoming more readily available. They're still kind of expensive. I actually lucked out and I found one on Craigslist. This girl was like, it was not like these cool tactical looking ones. It was this big Everlast clunky one. So I still have it. And I got it for like $10. But I remember I met her at the Safeway in Kapahulu, and she's like, she gave it to me and she's like, I'll throw this in for $5 more. And she holds up a shake weight. I was like, no, thank you. I'm good with the shake weight. Thank you very much. But so a weighted vest. Why I mention a weighted vest is because it's a great way to up the intensity. So I would actually use that a lot for cardio conditioning when I was competing for the world champs a few years ago in my sport. It's a nice way to get that intensity without beating your body up by doing like running and stuff like that. Because sometimes running is not good for you. It can be hard on the body. I apologize if you're a runner. I am not. It's not very nice to people with scoliosis. So the other thing too, for those of you who are like me, who kind of get caught up in overanalyzing things and get caught up in the minutia and then beat themselves up when they don't hit their numbers, this would be the part where I explain, just to be kind to yourself. Not every single exercise in the gym, or not every time you go out and you do your run or your biking or whatever, it's not always going to happen. You're not always going to, even if you had the goal of getting one more rep or cutting your minute time or whatever the case may be, because this is real life, right? And things happen. So you don't want to do this whole spiral and get so upset and then your whole day is blown up for what? It's just working out, right? At the end of the day, even for somebody like me that loves it and is unfortunately pretty much my only hobby outside of my shoes, customizing my shoes. Just to be kind to yourself and be gentle. So it's like with anything, right? It's kind of finding that middle ground of saying, okay, well, I want to push, but I don't need to push and kill myself on trying to achieve a goal. But I do want you folks to think about that your body is this amazing thing, and it's capable, and at any moment is trying to get better at whatever it is, whatever you're throwing at your body, it's going to get better at it. So that's why it's good to just kind of push, because your body, you'd be surprised at what you can accomplish, or what your body can accomplish with the right amount of training and smart training. I think that's all I wanted to mention for this episode about it. It's a topic, I will tell you, if you really want to nerd out about it, I mean, it gets crazy. Like, there's a like West Side Barbell method, like conjugated periodization, undulating periodization, and all this other stuff. And I forget the other ones. There's all these types of ways you can do programming to take advantage of progressive overload. You can even do it for like when you're trying to make weight for an event, like you have to do a water cut. There's basically, you're doing progressive overload for that. That is certainly not something I advise you ever doing, because it's dangerous and you could die. But That's how amazing your body is. So if you have any questions about this, you can always email show email swayze808 at sleeptimesover.com. Oh, can you see this in the, here's the logo T or tank. Sorry, tank. I actually use this to work out today. That's right. I didn't even take a shower. Protein juice. So yeah. Of course, remember the big news, April 22nd, 8 p.m. work play. A live show's coming back, gang. So if you can make it, please join me. Sleep Time's Over show on Instagram, Swayze808. And I think that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me as always. And wash your damn hands.